He's back. We're back. Universal's 2025. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and interesting news today at time of recording on Monday the 27th of January 2025. Doctor Who new writers and returning writers confirmed. So, in an article from the BBC Media Centre, new voices joined the TARDIS for Doctor Who Season 2, Series 15, Season 41, etc. The show announces the writers who have stepped aboard for the upcoming series, and this is going to be my main source of discussion throughout the series. Some of these writers I know, and some I don't know, which kind of the point by the sounds of it. Unless you're more familiar with their older work, you're probably not going to know who they are. But other names you'll probably recognise, as we've got two completely brand new writers to the universe. We've got one writer who's done expanded media, but not written for the show before, so this is going to be their first episode for the TV series. And we've had a writer of the 13th Doctor's era who's also working on a spin-off, or has been working on a spin-off, has also written for this series, alongside Russell T Davies himself as head writer, and also, if we count the Christmas special that's just aired, Stephen Moffat as well. In a recent Doctor Who magazine issue, I believe it was the one just before Christmas, that Russell T Davies said that there were 6 writers for the series, including for the Christmas special, which would be Stephen Moffat, and that he himself was also going to be writing for the series, of course, as the showrunner and head writer. How many episodes we believed that was going to be was uncertain. We heard 6 writers for the series, but we weren't sure if that included Russell himself, or if he was classifying himself separately. But I think he was including himself, as well as Stephen Moffat, so we've got 4 other writers for this series. The number of episodes Russell or the other writers are writing is not certain. My prediction is Russell is going to be writing 4 of the episodes, including the opener and the 2-part finale. I'm presuming it's going to be a 2-part finale, whilst the opener, I believe, is going to be a single-parter. And if he is writing 4, he's either going to be writing the 2nd episode, which, if it's that one with the cartoon coming out the cinema screen, would make a lot of sense if that is indeed part of the Pantheon, if one of the Pantheon's the villain of that story. Or he's going to be writing episode 4 or 5 in the middle of the series, like with 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble last year. So, basically last year, but minus 2 episodes. But which of the other episodes besides the opener and the finale is the one that's sticking around? We're not sure. Maybe the one with Ruby, but I have heard rumours that one of these other writers could be writing that episode. The other thing is that Russell does write 3 episodes, and one of these other writers is writing 2, and the other 3 are writing 1 each. But I'm more leaning to the Russell is writing 4 of them, and the other writers are writing 1 each. Of course, Russell could easily co-write some of those episodes with them, and so he could easily be co-writing maybe 1 or 2 alongside the 3 or 4 that he's writing on his own. But considering he's also been writing The War Between the Land and the Sea with one of these writers at the similar amount of time, as well as also doing season 1 not too much long before, then maybe he might want to overexert himself. That's why he probably gave Stephen Moffat the Christmas special. He wanted to give someone else a go. Stephen Moffat said Russell didn't want to write that one, so he gave him that. And yeah, if Russell does want to overwork himself between writing most of season 1 right after 4 specials, and he's writing a spin-off, he's writing about half. I think he's co-writing 1 episode and writing the other 2 of the other 4, and his co-writer is writing the other 2. Who I'll mention in a bit because they're the one of the writers on this 2nd season as well. Then I can understand if he doesn't want to overexert himself and may just want to concentrate on 3 or 4 episodes in this series and let other writers do their thing, like Stephen Moffat and Kate Herron and Bryony Reedman did last series, and Stephen Moffat again with the Christmas special. So maybe there'll be a co-writer or 2, but If he doesn't want to overexert himself, then I can understand if he just does the 3 or 4 episodes and he lets the other writers do whatever. Well, within reason, of course. Like the season's going to have the guidelines and plannings, and it's considered a writer's room. But in terms of the actual script writing, he's going to let them do their episodes. But I could be wrong. Maybe he'll end up only doing 3 episodes, and the other writers will do the other 5 between. The other 4 writers will do the other 5 episodes between them. Maybe he'll co-write 2 episodes alongside writing his own 3 or 4, and only 2 episodes won't have his name on them. 2 or 3 episodes won't have his name on them. I don't know yet. Considering there's rumours that the series could end up starting at the end of March or start of April, we probably won't have very long to find out. The fact that he's teasing, oh, it's going to start earlier than you expect, makes everybody now expect it's going to be around the 20th anniversary of Series 1. I mean, I'm not expecting him to say, oh, by the way, it's coming out on Saturday the 1st of March, for instance. I believe it is going to be like last Saturday, second to last Saturday of March, or first Saturday of April. That's Saturdays for UK time zones. Heading east and heading west, it'll be the Friday. If we're doing the whole midnight premiere again, the reason they probably didn't do that for Christmas Day is because it's Christmas Day. Schedules are all over the place, so that's probably why they didn't do that for the Christmas specials. But season 2, if they do it again, then countries and time zones west of GMT/BST are going to have it on the Friday. Anyway, so the new writers, I've gone on long enough, so first of all, we have a writer from Expanded Media who is finally writing their own episode for the TV series. I say finally for them. There's plenty of Expanded Media writers who would love to work for the TV series, and this is the latest one. It is Juno Dawson, who many fans will remember as the head writer of the Doctor Who Redacted series from 2023 and 2022. I got those years the wrong way round. Series 1 of that came out in 2022. That was weekly episodes for 10 weeks. And then Series 2 dropped stealthily just before the 60th anniversary, releasing, I believe, all 6 episodes in October, maybe even on the same day. I haven't heard Season 2. I have heard Series 1. I did weekly vlogs on my main channel on those. Sometimes I'd do double up because I would end up missing a week and I would have to catch up with like 2 of them, do 2 on another week instead. But I enjoyed Series 1 of Redacted. I mean, it was a bit of a slow start, but the premise was interesting and it picks up and as it goes along, and then it kind of slows down a bit after the middle, but then it picks up again at the end. So I would say, I believe episode 6 was my favourite. Yeah, I think episode 6 was my favourite. But yeah, I mean, the first 3 episodes kind of focus on what the series' premise is about and building. Episode 4 is sort of where things start to move directions, and episode 7 through 9 sort of slow down a bit more, but we're then starting to move towards the climax at the end of the series. As for Series 2, it's 6 episodes, but I haven't heard that series yet. I didn't even know it was a thing until it stealthily dropped, and I just never got round to listening to it. I never got round to re-listening to Series 1 either. I should really, in case I wanted to talk about them again, but I never got round to re-listening to Series 1, and I've not heard Series 2 yet, even though I did do a video about how it was a bit of a massive shame that the female producer and creator of the series was let go in favour of a man taking over. As great of a talented person as James Goss is at doing lots of great projects, but the fact that the BBC or whoever it was in charge of this podcast series decided to remove Ella Watts from producing her own series was a bit of a disgrace, in my opinion. Which is probably another reason why I just haven't gotten around to season 2, because of how the BBC or BBC Sounds or whoever treated the person who pitched the series and was basically the main producer of it, of the first series anyway, and then swapped him out with a man, as great as James Goss is. But yeah, but at least Juno Dawson stuck around for the second season. But again, I haven't heard it yet, and I just haven't gotten round to it yet. Juno Dawson has also taken part in the after show podcasts for the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials and the Church on Ruby Road. I don't know if she did season one. I didn't watch the season one podcast ones or listen to them. I've only seen the specials ones, but she's one of the presenters on that or was one of the presenters on the podcast of the 60th anniversary specials and the Church on Ruby Road. And she's also written for Big Finish, including, I believe, the episode of Torchwood Ore, which is part of Aliens Among Us 1, as I was kindly reminded by one of my friends on the Universals, and the Good Doctor book with the 13th Doctor. And she's probably done a few others as well. Audio, I think there was another audio that was mentioned. Outside of the Whoniverse, she is also well known for being a Sunday Times #1 best-selling novelist, writer, a screenwriter and journalist, and has written global bestsellers This Book is Gay and Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and wrote the short film The Birth of Venus. Well, it doesn't say she wrote it, but I presume that she wrote that. I mean, she could easily have produced or directed it, which is also pretty damn cool. Hey guys, Nick in editing here, just throwing this one other extra bit. So, I'd forgotten that Juno Dawson was actually a trans woman. I had heard that she had been prior to this announcement, but I think it slipped my mind, and then I was reminded by Jen, friend of the channel, that she was, but I forgot to mention it in the actual video. So this is an extra bit that I'm adding on to say that I believe we've got our first ever trans writer for the TV series. I'm not sure about Expanded Media if she was the first or if someone else was before her, but in terms of the television series, the main show, the flagship, Former Media, she's the first writer of the TV series to be a trans person. #trans rights. So that is a major exciting thing that we've got our first trans person writing for the show. And it's someone who's written for Expanded Media, including a official tie-in to the TV series with the redacted series from the BBC, as well as the tie-in novel and Torchwood audio dramas. So it's really exciting, really cool. And a pretty cool fact that we have our first trans writer for the TV series writing for season 2. I'm not going to talk about the next person too much because I don't know this person that well, nor the last one. Anyway, the second writer is Inula Ella Miss. I'm butchering the name. I struggled with saying this surname. But he's the writer of books and poetry, including Candy Coated Unicorns and Converse All Stars, and The Actual, and has written the play The 14th Tale, which he was awarded a Fringe First at the Edinburgh International Theatre Festival, reading from the article, as I mentioned. And other plays include The Barbershop Chronicles, Three Sisters, and The Half God of Rainfall. From the sounds of it, of what he says he was... he's from Nigeria, and he was watching Doctor Who when it was airing then. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, so he could easily be talking about 60s episodes that were shown over in Nigeria. Heck, that's where they found the Enemy of the World and the Web of Fear, after all. Or he could easily be talking about stories from the 80s, or he could be a very young writer who's managed to write quite a few plays in the last 10 years. And maybe he grew up with Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant. I don't really know how old he is. Me in editing might put it down how old he is, so then you could probably work out how old, because he says he was 10 when he was watching the series, so you could probably work out how old he is from that. Yeah, I'm not doing much prior research prior to the recording of this video, but me in editing might put something in. But yeah, it's great that we're getting another POC writer in the series that Chris Chibnall tried to bring in back in series 11 and 12. and well, series 12, I think it might have been one of the writers from one or two of the writers from series 11 coming back. And series 13 been made, I think Mallory Blackman might have returned, as would have Vinay Patel. So they might. So I would have said series 13 as well, but that ended up only being Chris Chibnall plus a co-write with Maxine Alderton at one episode and Ella Rhodes with one of the specials, who I believe needs another chance. I believe she deserves to have a second chance, despite how that episode went down. I believe Ella Rhodes should have another bash at it. And considering Russell said he was open to being more inclusive with his writers' room as well, and only now are we actually getting a bit more inclusivity, because last series it was just Russell for almost every episode and one Stephen Moffat, and then the only real proper newbies were a writing duo on one episode. Two women from the Loki series, Kate Herron and Bryony Reedman. That was it. Until one of these new writers, or one of the two new writers, or Juno Dawson, until their episode airs, the inclusivity is sort of on the lower end of the scale at the moment, but it's starting to go up a little bit in terms of the Russell second era. As for what their episodes are about, well, I don't know, it could be anything. I mean, we saw stuff in the trailers, but any episode could be by any writer. Well, besides the first one, which might be about Red Robots, which will be the Russell episode, or a Russell episode. But other than that, any episode could be up by any writer, or any episode that has clips in that trailer, I should say, could be by any of these writers, including RTD himself. And speaking of returning faces, we have the one returning writer for this series from previous series, who is also co-writing The War Between the Land and the Sea, and that is, of course, Pete McTighe, also known for writing and directing the collection box set trailers, but mostly well known for writing the episodes Kerblam and Praxeus, or co-writing that last one, really, with Chris Chibnall for series 11 and 12, respectively, and was initially also lined up to write for series 13. Quite a few of the series 11 and 12 writers were going to come back for series 13 before plans changed and we went down the Flux route, with only Maxine Alderton being the only one to return, and even then on a co-write level. And Ella Rhodes might have been the one new writer for that series before her episode was pushed back to be a special, and again, also co-written. Pete McTighe co-wrote Praxeus with Chris Chibnall, although that's probably the one episode that series, besides Orphan 55 and Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, that probably could have not needed to be worried about a co-write, especially since some of those environmental elements were also reused in that season 9 trailer, box set trailer with the Sea Devils. Speaking of which, I wonder if that's why Russell has asked him to write the Sea Devils spin-off with him, as opposed to Chris Chibnall or Ella Rhodes. That, and maybe he's also quite a fan of the Sea Devils. Maybe Pete McTighe is a trusted pair of hands as far as RTD is concerned. I know he's not the most popular choice with the fan base, as his episodes of the Chibnall era are Marmite. You either Kablam is maybe more well liked. It's a bit more of a light story, but many fans do kind of take issue with the third act politics. We kind of question those politics at the end of the third act, but Kablam is typically regarded as one of the strongest Series 11 episodes by fans, at least the ones who actually like Series 11, or at the very least are able to point out, yes, there is some good elements in this series. People who aren't really fond of Series 11 maybe might lean to saying it's one of the less weak ones. It's better than most of the others, but not as good as some others. But yeah, Kablam's generally considered a pretty good story, at least within the era that it came and the series that it came out in, by fans who have seen the episodes. But not a perfect one, and I'm inclined to agree. I think it's one of Series 11's stronger episodes, but it isn't perfect. Like, yeah, that ending's a bit of a sus. It's a bit sus. Meanwhile, Praxeus in Series 12 is nowhere near as popular. It's a bit more polarizing and Marmite. It's not widely considered one of the weaker ones of Series 12, but it's usually kind of like, um, if it appears higher on the list, it's usually because people either aren't so much keen on some of the other episodes, or they just don't think Series 12 is that great in general. And it just so happens to be one of the less weaker ones, again, but not on the same level as Kablam. And if it's on the lower end of the list and people seem to do enjoy Series 12, um, then they'll regard it as one of the weaker ones of that series. And yeah, this is a bit of a more Mimite episode. It has its moments as well. For starters, it's got Warren Orson Brown, who's a Chad, playing a Chad character, by the way. The globe hopping is probably one of its better uses of the Chibnall era in this story. And the team work really well, both separately to each other and together, as well as with the new characters. The twist with the villain reveal is a bit slightly awkward. It's not as sus as in Kablam, but it also doesn't pay off as well. But the actual ending is pretty good, even though it does make Earthshock's ending feel like a bit awkward by saying, "Oh, maybe we could have done that." Although Earthshock does actually have a reason why they couldn't do that in that story, so don't forget that. There's actually a reason why they couldn't go and save Adric. The Cybermen shot the console. Although the Doctor explained how they were able to save, I think it was Jake, the astronaut, was Jake Warren Brown's character. I don't know why they had to explain how they could save him, because we basically saw the exact same way they did it when the Doctor saved, when surrounded Rose and a Dalek in Parting of the Ways. It's the exact same way. I think they've done it once or twice elsewhere as well in between, so I don't know why they had to add extra dialogue for poor old Jodie Whittaker to say to explain it. Like, we know how it works. But again, this is a co-written episode with Chris Chibnall, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one who wrote that line. But yeah, I think Praxis is decent. I think it's got quite a few good moments, but again, it doesn't quite work as well as Kablam or some of the other episodes of Series 12. And this is going by the standards of this series, by the way. So in terms of the general show, well, we're close to 900 episodes. We've passed 300 serials. It's gonna be in that sort of like lower to middle tier. Then again, I think most of the show kind of squeezes into a massive middle tier. So yeah, the lower tier isn't actually that big, to be honest, generally. And of course, the collection box set trailers are typically pretty good. The short films are pretty fun. All the short edits are pretty cool as well. Whether they need specific written bits or not is uncertain. But yeah, the short films are generally really good and show a lot of love and passion for the seasons or characters that they're being made for the promotion of the new box set for. Actually, I believe Pete Mattei also wrote for Tales from the TARDIS. I believe he wrote 3 of them. I think 2 or 3 of them at least. Pete Mattei wrote the 2nd and 7th Doctor's ones for the Mind Robber and the Curse of Fenric, whilst Phil Ford did the 6th, 3rd, and 1st Doctor's ones. Vengeance on Varos, 3 Doctors, and the Time Meddler. And Russell T Davies did the 5th and 4th Doctor ones, Earthshock and Pyramids of Mars. With that latter one linking into the season 1 finale, but also being a cut down and updated special effects version of that story, whilst the others were, well, besides Curse of Fenric, which was the special edition from the 2003 special edition version of that story, the rest were their usual stories, but in an omnibus format. Basically, Pete Mattei is the returning writer, done some stuff in the TV series, done the box sets, done the Tales from the TARDIS, and he's also doing the War Between the Land and the Sea. He's co-writing with Russell on episode 1, and then I think he's doing 2 and 3, whilst Russell does 4 and 5 solo, respectively. So we shall see how it turns out. One of the rumors was that the episode with Ruby and Unit was in the middle of the series was Pete's episode, or one Pete episode. He could be the writer who could do 2. Again, he's not overexerting himself with War Between Land and the Sea and other stuff. Finally, we have Sharma Angel Wolfall, who won the inaugural Channel 4 New Writing Award which sets her off on her screenwriting journey, and has been a number of writers' rooms, including Ratman's Supercell. For Netflix, Sally Wainwright's The Ballad of Renegade Nell on Disney Plus, A Town Called Malice on Sky, not to be confused with the Song by the Jam, although I wouldn't be surprised if they had that in there, and Norton Crosses, based on the novel by aforementioned 13th Doctor writer Mallory Blackman for the BBC, and also a writing constant on Paul Abbott's Wolf Sky. Hey, that's another writer who was going to write for the series. He was going to write for Series 1, but it didn't quite happen, and Boomtown replaced his episode, or what would have been his episode, and wrote an episode of Sharon Hogan's Dreamland for Sky, which stars former Doctor Who actor for Imaginement, aka Martha Jones, and her cousin Adiola. Sharon Hogan actually would be a pretty good writer for the series, especially if it's a comedy drama themed episode. Again, I don't really know much about Sharma Angel Wallfall's previous output. Although I am aware of the Norton Cross TV series, saw some trailers for that, and I think Renegade Now, I think I saw a trailer for that. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about her. I could speak for ages about Juno Dawson, and even more so about Pete Matai, because I know what I'm talking about. Well, at least mostly in Juno Dawson's case. There's probably some bits I don't know about. Pete Matai, I know what I'm talking about there, for the most part. The two new writers, I didn't really know much about before coming into this, so yeah, I can't really talk too much about them. But if you guys know about their previous works, please comment down below. I heard there was someone speculating that Stuart Hardy was going to be one of the new writers, having done short films mostly within the horror and thriller, and sort of like a Black Mirror-esque style in terms of genre. Unfortunately, that does not seem to have come true. As amazing as it would have been for Stuart Hardy to be a writer on Doctor Who, as much as it would be like having George Sheard, apologies, being a showrunner or involved in the production. But those rumours have clearly not turned out to be true at time of said rumours coming about. Although never say never. Maybe Robert Sherman will put in a good word for Stuart Hardy, as they've collaborated before, and maybe Stuart Hardy will end up writing for season 3. Who knows? Oh, it would be amazing if Robert Sherman came back to do an episode in season 3 as well. That would be awesome. So that's that article, and that's kind of my thoughts on the series of the new writers of the series. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching this Doctor Who Season 2, Series 15, Season 41. Writers announcement video and discussion. What do you think about the returning and new writers of this season? Comment down below. How many episodes each do you think they'll get? I'm predicting Pete Matique could end up doing 2, or maybe he'll co-write one with Russell. If Russell is just doing 3 or 4, maybe he'll do 3 solo, and then he'll co-write one with Pete, and then maybe Pete will do another one on his own. Or there'll be one where Russell co-writes with Juno, and then the other 2 episodes are the 2 new writers. We'll see. Actually, to be honest, Pete and Juno could probably do their ones without any help. The other 2 new writers probably could, but because they're new to the Whoniverse. But then again, they said they've seen the show, so if Russell thinks they can do them on their own, he'll do them. Maybe he and script editor Scott Hancock will make some edits later down the line, but for the most parts, I think they've probably got to be left alone. Season 1, to be honest, Russell didn't really co-write with anybody, so but we'll see how it goes. Sorry it took until the end of January for the first video or videos to come out. Wait a minute. That means next month is February. You know what that means? Collection box set video! This time, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to be seeing how my predictions from the first video I've done on the collection box sets, at least the first of the annual February ones, as well as other predictions later on, how have they come to fruition, and what could be the new predictions for them going forward? Well, that last one's actually self-explanatory. They're unpredictable. And unless you're working on them, you can't really tell. But more on that next time. Until then, Have a great day. Goodbye.